Hey, in today's podcast, I want to talk about growth strategies for the easily distracted. That might mean you. Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. So I found myself wandering around LinkedIn this morning. Sometimes I just like to scroll deep and see what I'm missing. I usually get 2 scrolls down and I'm good for the day. But today was like, I'm looking for ideas. I'm looking for something to motivate me, get me wound up, give me a new topic to talk about, and just see what's going on, right? See what's going on out there. And I'll say in general, I find LinkedIn is probably the best professional marketing tool that we have. It's certainly in terms of social media. There's lots of other ways if you're retail to get followers, but if you're a boutique service company, like 99% of my followers, LinkedIn is the best way to get your message across to a very select group of people who will start to identify with what you're doing. And for that reason, I do follow a lot of my clients and friends and see what they're up to, see what they're talking about in their feed, how they're promoting their business, who they might be attracting, kind of seeing what's changing and what's evolving in there. And then it's always interesting when I get a new prospect and somebody reaches out to me and schedules a call, I always go, check their LinkedIn feed. I go look at their website. I look at their social media and try and get a sense of who they think they are. And then I talk to them and find out, who they really are, who they really think they are, and try to reconcile those conflicts and differences between their marketing persona and what's coming across in the Zoom call. It is kind of fun. You kind of do forensics as you drill down into these companies and understand the nexus. And I'll give you a very typical example. And there's going to be a lot of people who think I'm sharing what we said on their call, but I have this conversation so often that it probably applies to 50% of all the prospect calls that I've gotten in the past, 2 years anyway. People say, as I say, well, what's your origin story? Tell me how you got started. And believe it or not, more times than not lately, they tell me their business got started as a DJ business. This individual, maybe in college, started doing DJ work on the side, picked up a rig, started doing parties and bigger parties and weddings and galas, started having more work than they could do. So they got another rig or found other DJs to work with, and then found themselves in the DJ marketing business and building a DJ company. And when you become a successful DJ, and you get into some of these bigger and bigger events, you do more things. You need bigger sound systems. You need more lights. You need LED. You need flashy things. I went to my nephew's wedding recently, a destination wedding in Mexico, and it's like, the reception party was like the biggest party I'd ever seen in my life. So, these DJ jobs can turn into these enormous events. So all of a sudden they're in the party rental business, and they're renting decor and lots of AV equipment, and they're doing things on the side for their customers. They start to do things like develop relationships with venues, become the exclusive provider for a venue, specializing in maybe weddings or bar mitzvahs or parties or whatever it might be. And then somebody will ask them to maybe, do a corporate gig. Hey, you were great at that party that we threw for our daughter, but can you do this business meeting for me? And then all of a sudden they're finding themselves doing corporate AV and corporate gigs. And then there's integration. They find themselves in integration. Somebody wanted to put some monitors in the lobby of their office or an LED wall in their conference center. All of a sudden, the person I'm talking to, they're suddenly an integration company. Then there's custom scenic. They want to build big scenery, so they build a little scene shop. And you start hearing all these things, and you look at the website, and you look at all these divisions of this company and all these service offerings, and you kind of are like, well, how big are you guys? How many employees do you have? Well, there's just the 3 of us. just the three of you, and you are all of these things. Well, I mean, yeah, we take care of all these people. We do a really good job. So that's awesome. What do you want to do with the business? Well, we only like this one part of the business. We'd like to grow it. Now, it varies. Sometimes it's the corporate AV side because people think corporate AV, there's great money in it. The customers are easier to deal with than I would think party customers are, and event companies. Oh my goodness. Shoot me before I ever had to provide AV for a wedding. I don't think I could deal with the drama and the decision making. I mean, just my own daughter's wedding. It's like, oh my goodness. I can imagine what some of these big events are like, and I can see why people might not want to do that, and how price sensitive these things are actually, even though they seem to be very relationship centric as well. So, what's the strategy here? And why am I talking about this? One, because I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating that you can have all of these businesses and you find yourself at a crossroads, and maybe you don't even realize that you're at a crossroads. Often when I'm having these conversations with prospects and I keep asking why a few times to try to get down to the crux of why they're calling me, it's often because they figured out they either want to grow all of the business or they only want to grow some of the business. Okay, great. I mean, there's a fork in the road. Let's make some choices. Let's understand why you would want to grow all or why you only grow some. What's going on? And what's your goal in all of this? If you chose one path or another, what are you going to get to sooner? Because if you're not going to get to your goal sooner or a straighter line to your goal, what's the point? Nobody ever calls up and says, Tom, hey, I want to take the most circuitous path I can to success. If they did, I have lots of ways for you to fiddle around and not get anywhere. I can tell you lots of stories about how to do that, but most people want to get things done more efficiently and, make higher and best use of their time, make more money in one area, whatever it might be. So we talk about the pros and the cons, right? What's the pros of having all these different lines of business under one roof? And most business owners will tell me, it means, yeah, there's always a job. There's always something we're working on, right? I can get fill-in work. I can say, hey, we'd love to do your LED wall, but we can't do it until December. We'll have time to do it in December and put things off. It's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Other people will tell me that I just find it really interesting. I'm interested in a lot of things. I like to learn new things. I got to do a control system. I thought that was fascinating. I learned how to program. Okay. So we have some Renaissance minds going on here that we're interested in a lot of different things. Now, what are the cons? Well, the cons are, particularly if you're that person who's interested in so many things, you're that jack of all trades, your company starts to come across as you're a jack of all trades. You don't know who you are or what you want to be. It also means that if the customer is not happy with anything that you do for them, they're going to look at whatever you did as the thing that's getting neglected. Oh, yeah, they're not really paying attention to the DJ business anymore. That, our party didn't go as well. The DJ wasn't the right fit, yada, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, whether that is true or not, the perception is that it's true. And that starts to erode that side of the business because, well, people talk. Now, what are some other cons of all this? I think if you do a lot of different things that look like they're related, but there are no buyers for all of the things, it starts to devalue what you're really good at. And a buyer can come to you and say, yeah, absolutely, I'm interested in having you do the AV for our gala event and providing us a DJ, and we'd like to use some of your decor, and can you do this custom sign for me? And, oh, you have a relationship with this venue. Yes, I know, because they're the ones that told me to call you. And you can look at those things and see how they all fit very nicely together. And then the salesman is going, hey, have you guys ever thought about putting an LED wall in your office? And all of a sudden there's a disconnect. Do you do corporate events? All of a sudden there's a disconnect. So those businesses are different, which brings it to the argument that many AV companies, AV-based companies that started off in AV rental or AV sales or AV integration, think that there's this symbiotic relationship between doing fixed installations, doing product sales, and doing rentals and events and corporate events. And I will tell you that for a certain size of company, it works and it makes sense. These are pretty small companies, though. Anybody who's grown a large integration business, because integration, I guarantee you, if you're good at it, it will grow farther and faster than your live event business. If you're great at live event business, it's going to grow farther and faster than your integration business. They rarely grow together at the same pace because they are so different. And after the first couple $1 million in revenue, you'll find that the referrals from one to the other aren't paying off anymore. So as you grow, the fact that you did somebody's corporate event is not going to get you that big campus installation, or the fact that you put a control system in this building or put a entry system into a building is not going to help you get the next, AV rental or gala or party or whatever it might be. So larger companies don't find that symbiotic relationship. They don't get a synergy between the two organizations after a certain point, but smaller companies do. And this is interesting, just as a side note, because in Europe, that is the standard model. The standard model, if you're an AV company, you do AV integration, commercial and residential. You do AV rentals and you do events with AV. You provide services, all of these things. And most of these companies are fairly self-sustaining and inclusive. They don't hire a lot of outside freelancers, though they do hire some. They don't do a lot of subcontracting. They take it all themselves. And so they have to pick and choose which jobs they take based on what's available on their calendar, because they could be doing any one of a number of different things that would tie up the same team, right? Their integration team is also their show team. So we see that a lot in smaller companies in Europe. And as those companies get bigger, they divide into companies that are specifically integration built environment, companies that are specifically rental environment or temporary setups. But I digress. So why would you do this? Why would you make a decision? One, I think this is a good strategy question. When you're at a crossroads and you're doing all of these things, you're finding out you're probably not in love with all of it anymore. You've probably found out that there's some clientele that is not perfect for you, but you've also discovered that if you try and market everything, you end up marketing nothing because you have no consistent message getting out there. You can't afford to be all things to all these different people and to put the same amount of energy into all those areas, because like one LED wall could be $1 million installation at 20% gross profit. Yay. If you did $1 million worth of events, it'd probably be 60 or 50% gross profit. Bigger yay. So how do you market? What do you go after? And how much of your time and energy is it going to take up? So we start to ask you these questions. Now, one of the things that I suggest to the owners who want to not grow all, but want to change their emphasis a little bit, I call it de-emphasizing. Rather than just emphasizing, yes, we just want to do corporate events. Great. If you want to do corporate events, then market corporate events. But what we're really doing is we're de-emphasizing the other things that you do. We're giving them a little bit less energy so that you can give a little bit more energy over here in instead. So we de-emphasize and we take down things. We quit saying that we do certain things. For instance, if you don't want to be in the DJ business anymore, or you want to de-emphasize this, and let's not promote that. Let's promote galas, and DJs are just a service that you have in your back pocket. We call this a backside sale. A backside sale is something that you can bring to the table when the customer makes the need apparent. Product sales is a good example. Yes, we can all buy and resell product. Sometimes customers would rather get it from us. They want our advice and expertise about what to buy. They'll let us put a few points on it, sell it to them. We can make that a backside sale. If integration is not your primary business, sometimes you may get an integration project as a backside sale. You say, yes, we can do that for you. We don't promote that. We're very selective about the jobs that we take, but this is the type of job that we specialize in. We'd like to do this for you. That's a backside sale. So you have to determine what you can make a backside sale and what are you going to lead with. The other thing you'll find that you'll have to do is better identify who your ideal customer is. For instance, the owner who calls and says, hey, I'm doing these 7 different lines of business and I want to grow them all because they're all the same customer. When we challenge them on that, we find out, well, no, they're not really all the same customer, but they do have some customers that have bought from more than one area. Who are the customers they like to deal with? Well, here's another interesting thing. In what situation? Oh, we love this client. They're a great client, except when they do parties. When they do parties, they're cutthroat. When they do parties, they're very dismissive. They're not nice to our team. They're on a short fuse. They're cheap. But when they do this kind of project, they're very generous. They're not budget sensitive. So it's not really the buyer that's the problem. It's the environment. It's the thing that they are buying that's of interest. So you're interested in buyers of the things that's easier to sell. And you don't want that part of their business that is not easy to sell unless you can make it worth your while. So we have to think about what can be a backside sale and who are going to be our ideal customers. And then eventually, as we are successful and as you grow, you will find yourself at that point where you have to pick a lane. Okay? You might not. You might be that rare company that can do a lot of things really well, and you're great at marketing and you're great at selling because that's where your emphasis is, and all this other things are just tools in your toolbox. Good for you. You're a rare breed. Most of my followers are AV geeks first, and builders of selling engines third or fourth in their life. But if you're great at building a selling engine, then it's much easier to sell 7 product lines, find those 3 different customer profiles that are ideal for you and go after them and market to them and do some backside selling and cross-selling in there. But if you're like most of my followers, you really like doing certain types of jobs, then you don't have to give up everything you've built. You just have to de-emphasize them a little bit so they don't take people's focus. They don't take the buyer's focus away from what you do best, which is where you get the most reward in terms of, personal satisfaction, good use of your time, and good return on your investment. In other words, where you can make a profit. And if you lead with those things, yeah, of course I can get a DJ for you. I have lots of DJs. Yes, we do this all the time. I've got a great history of doing this. Right. So there's a lot of things that you can do on the backside. And that's my thought for the day. So yes, you will find yourself at a crossroads about staying in the lane or not staying in your lane. And my message to you is it's just a crossroads. You can divide your energy, and go down one lane, or you can focus your energy and go down another lane. There are no wrong answers here. Look at what the problem is you're trying to solve. Why does this crossroads exist? That's an inward-looking question. Why do you think there needs to be a crossroads, and address that issue? And if you find that you've fallen in love with a certain type of business or a certain type of customer, then by all means, take that fork. If you really love selling and you can attract everybody to do everything, then there's another fork waiting for you. It's just the world telling you it's time to put your energy, put your best foot forward, and pick a lane or don't pick a lane. That's my thoughts for the day. Hey, I'll see you on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.